Hello everyone. So today I'm going to show you a speed paint of a illustration I've done. So I'm taking a little bit after Rexel Jet with his Thomas art challenge videos, as he calls them, where he speed paints engines and adds a bit of background to the characters he's drawing. And I'm going to do a little bit of a similar thing here, where I'm showing you what I'm drawing, so give a little bit of ideas. So I decided to just, why not, draw Sutekh from Doctor Who as a Sith Lord in Star Wars. And I decided, why not film it, why not? And so that's what you're seeing now. No, there are 3 recordings. I had a bit of a break, and then I realised, and then the third one was, I forgot to I forgot to highlight a little bit of his visor, so that's the last 30 seconds. This is all sped up from what you're watching, but I had to do the last 30-second bit. Anyway, this was fun drawing to do. I usually only draw the characters in a drawing, so this was a quite interesting thing to also do the background. But anyway, I think I'll talk about the drawing and the kind of idea for how to fit Sutekh into Star Wars and swap between the two. So I do think Sutekh is probably one of the easier characters to work into Star Wars. He has a backstory that can very much work within the Star Wars lore as it is. You just kind of need to just need to make a few little alterations. I'm only really going to talk about the lore that is relevant to what I'm going to establish for how he could work in Star Wars. So I'll mainly be talking about the Pyramids of Mars novel and the prologue in that, because that's really where a lot of this will come from. In the original prologue for the Pyramids of Mars, as in the novelisation, it's pretty much states that Sutekh was the brother of Horus. I can't quite remember whether Horus was the leader of the Osirans, Sutekh's species. I think he was, and Sutekh was quite jealous that he was the leader, that his brother was the leader, and so he went and kind of became as powerful as he could. And eventually came to the conclusion that all life is his enemy, and that if they became more powerful, and that he needs to stop them from becoming more powerful than he is. So he kind of goes around killing life out of fear that they could become more powerful than he. But he eventually becomes so powerful he destroys his home planet of Faster Osiris, which has a lot of Osirans on, and he goes around the universe causing a lot of destruction for a bit, before Horus eventually builds up a band of Osirans to go and fight Horus, and they follow his destruction to Earth. 740 Osirans, as it's stated in the novel, they do it exactly as not 740. Fight off Sutekh, and they eventually defeat him. It's never outright stated, but the way the book treats it, it definitely makes it seem like Sutekh was a one-man army. So having to have 740 just to defeat him actually sounds like he was a pretty strong opponent. And many Osirans wanted Sutekh dead, but Horus was very much, no, we'd be as bad as he is if we do that. So he paralyses Sutekh on Mars. No, not on Mars, in Egypt, not Mars. Mars is where the place of his thing that is paralysing him is. Bit of a minute since I watched Pyramids of Mars. So, however, Horus isn't even that heartless to leave Sutekh without escape, but he makes sure Sutekh has very little chance of escaping. So that's kind of how the story of Sutekh with Horus goes in the original lore. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the illustration here. I do think probably the biggest challenge was to actually make this kind of Star Wars-ify Sutekh's outfit while still making it look like Sutekh. Like if if you were to draw Darth Vader in a medieval kind of setting, you want to keep the key features that make Darth Vader, so you could make him recognisable as that character, but still have that artistic liberty to make him look like he's a medieval knight or whatever you're trying to do with him. And that's kind of what had to do with Sutekh here. You kind of had to take the design and make it look a little bit more Star Warsy. That was, of course, quite a difficult thing to do. So the main thing was I really just changed the visor, and that was about it. I think I just merged the two the eye visors, and just merged them into one, and I think that worked quite effectively. I did kind of raise the patterns above his eye to kind of merge with that big kind of circle just above, just in like where his forehead is. So yeah, that was raised up a bit. But generally everything else about the helmets is pretty much the same as the original helmet. I do kind of wish I did a little bit more to it, but I think if I changed it too much, you wouldn't recognise it as Sutekh, I don't think. So I think it's fine as it is. The same with the outfit, you've got the chest plate there. I kind of made the silhouettes similar to, I'm going to call it a chest plate. It doesn't much look like a chest plate because it looks like it's made out of fabric, but it looks very similar to the chest plate Sutekh does wear in Pyramids of Mars. With the silhouettes, you've got those 3 bumps right by the shoulders. And you even got that little kind of hump by the chest that I don't know what that's there for, but you've got that right there. It kind of looks a bit like there's 3 layers to the chest plate. You've got the innermost, which is closer to his neck. And then you've got the red bit, which goes a bit down to his stomach, and then you've got the lighter bit, which was meant to be the same colour as a bit nearer his neck, but I made it a little bit light. I was meant to make it a little bit lighter so you could tell it's different, but it kind of came across more like it's silver rather than black. But you never know. I intended it to be black, but it may add a nice little splash of colour to him. You never know. But that bit does go a bit lower down. That's definitely the most artistic liberty for it. It goes a little bit down below the waist. You don't see his legs in this illustration, unfortunately. I do still think he's wearing that skirt he has in Pyramids of Mars. I do kind of wish I did that little bit of a pattern down each leg that he has in Pyramids of Mars, where he has those 2 lines. I do think that I could maybe added that onto the outfit, but oh well. But I do think the chest plate doesn't go any lower than that, sensitive area. I do think that's pretty much where it stops, but it does go below the waist. I decided to give him a lightsaber pike and a staff. I'd like to think if Sutekh was to return again in the TV in Doctor Who, I would like to think he probably would have a cloak and be having a staff. I think with a bit slightly altered Pyramids of Mars design, maybe I'll do an image on that one day, but I think it would be quite a nice thing. So I can't move that staff idea into this Sith Lord Sutekh thing, and kind of took after the Black Series Darth Plagueis, where Plagueis has a lightsaber that can attach onto his staff. That was something only exclusive to the Black Series, though. In both his trading cards and the Tag and Bink comic strip, it was just the staff back in that time. The lightsaber being able to attach to the staff was purely of Black Series' creation, and the staff isn't even mentioned in Darth Plagueis. So yeah. You got the armbands there. I decided to make both armband threads on the actual character on his original design. One's red, one's black, and it's the same on the other side. One's red, one's black. But I just decided to make all of the armbands red. Kept the red gloves though, and the belts. That was definitely another difficult part to do because it was. It looks like Sutekh just wears 3 ropes around his waist. In the original design, it's quite daft. It works for the design there, but it doesn't work for this design. So I went with the more traditional Star Wars kind of look for it, but to still have that rope look, you got that in like the middle of the belt buckle. You got that rope still there. I knew. So let's kind of move on to how I think I would work Sutekh into the Star Wars lore. I think, again, Sutekh is probably one of those characters you can just kind of easily slot in. There's not a whole lot you have to really change for him to work. I think he would probably work best in like that 2000 BBY era, because we know very little about what happens between like 2000 BBY to 1000 BBY, whatever it was. You know, like the era of Darth, that's kind of like when all we really know is something like about Darth Desolus existing at that point, and there's probably a few other little bits to that as well. But, you know, that's 1,000 years to work with. You know, Sutekh can probably slot in quite, the like reign of Sutekh can probably fit in quite nicely there. So I'm going to say you can go fit in most of his original story. He was an Osiran, again, he was originally an Osiran in the Doctor Who, so we can can't keep that. He was an Osiran from Phase of Osiris. He was jealous of his brother Horus, so he went missing for a few centuries, possibly a few thousand years. And in that time he had found ancient Sith texts, or, you know, if we want to put this in the post the Legacy era, then it definitely is ancient. I think that could be a very nice place to put him in the post-Legacy era, because then that's, you know, you just have free reign there. But, you know, kind of slot him in where you think he works best. But, you know, he finds old Sith texts, he learns from them, grows his powers up, and comes to the conclusion that, hey, all life is my enemy. I can't let them become more powerful than me. And so he goes and destroys every Osiran on Face of Osiris. Maybe his immense power even maybe shatters the planet itself in a similar form to Malachor 5, how that breaks after the mass shadow generator. You never know. We don't really know exactly what happened to Face of Osiris. All it's really said in the Pyramids of Mars novel is that he destroyed the planet, I'm fairly sure, so I'm fairly sure that it says that, so, you know, it's entirely possible that this same Sutekh can do that. I mean, you have Nihilus eating Qatar, and you have Vitiate draining the Thema, you know. But anyway, you got Sutekh there, and he again trundles throughout the universe for another few hundreds, maybe a few thousand years, creating a path of destruction wherever he goes. Horus eventually decides it's time to shut down my brother's operations. They find him on Naboo. Again, 740 Osirans against Sutekh. Very few Osirans survive, but they eventually sever Sutekh from the Force. You know how it goes. The other Osirans want Sutekh dead. Horus says no. So he goes and traps him on Korriban inside a tomb, maybe a tomb specifically made for Sutekh, and leaves him paralysed in there, but still doesn't leave him without hope for escape. Now, of course, if you watch Pyramids of Mars, then you know what happens to Sutekh. I don't know if you know, a rewrite of Pyramids of Mars can really work for this version of Sutekh. I don't think so, but hey, it is what it is. I haven't really figured out the Doctor, and honestly, I don't really want to for this interpretation. But anyway, we got Sutekh here. And so let's get back to the art. I pretty much gave you what the idea for how Sutekh could work into Star Wars could be. Anyway, back to Sutekh here. With the belt. So with the belt buckle, that was meant to be silver, but of course you got the red rope thing. I want to make that clear because I know I said the chest was meant to, the chest plate that looks silver is meant to be black, but then you've got the belt buckle which is even lighter, and I want to make it clear that is meant to be silver, the belt buckle. But anyway, let's talk about the setting for Sutekh. I know I wanted him to be in a cave, but I didn't quite know how to make the cave look interesting, so I kind of added in that entrance, which is quite funnily a little bit similar to that entrance in Pyramids of Mars, so I'm quite pleased with that. I kind of decided I'm going to put him on Korriban, which again, looking back at it now, is actually quite a fitting thing, because Korriban, of course, it's a red planet, just like Mars, which is where Sutekh has to send his servants to so he can be freed. It's so I think that was quite an ironic thing. So you can kind of see Korriban in the back there. For Sutekh's lightsaber, I kind of based it on a few lightsaber designs. The pommel is based on Darth Plagueis' lightsaber from a trading card. If you search up Darth Plagueis on Wikipedia, the image used for his Darth Plagueis' lightsaber on Wikipedia, then the image that pops up for his lightsaber should be on his lightsaber page, that should be the lightsaber I'm referring to, but you never know, they may change it in the future. But it is of a trading card, and that's kind of what I based the pommel on. It's got the kind of like control box from Luke and Obi-Wan's lightsaber on there, and it's got a little bit of an opening to the side, quite similar to Palpatine's. That wasn't intentional, that bit. I kind of wanted to do like the grating, jagged hilts that Obi-Wan and Luke has, but I thought, nah, I won't do that. I'll have an opening up to that, but I didn't add in the jagged edges, and I'm quite fine with that, honestly. I think even just having that opening is actually quite nice for the hilt. And then of course you've got the emitter, which I based on the little kind of ball Sutekh has on his helmet. There's a little ball on top of it, and I kind of based the emitter on that. As for, again, the pike the lightsaber is mounted on, I kind of just decided that he can remove the lightsaber from the pike, like how in the Darth Plagueis Black Series figure you can remove the lightsaber from the staff. I think that's just a nice little thing you could do. I think the adapter for the lightsaber to the pike is probably part of the lightsaber rather than being part of the pike, because the lightsaber's got all those controls on it, on the little control box. Possibly one of those controls allows the adapter to go back into the hilt or something, because I doubt that little adapter's going to be out all the time, whether it's on the pike or on the lightsaber. I think it is part of the lightsaber. So yeah. Now, I did almost do the background of Sutekh first, before doing the background, and I'm very glad I reversed that and did the background first, because I kind of wanted to have the cave be illuminated by Sutekh's lightsaber, which is why he looks very, I kind of drew him with lots of reds and browns to make him look a bit more like it's been illuminated by his lightsaber. I do think I probably could have done a little bit of a better job texturing him. I think I mainly did good on the helmets. The rest of him I think could be a little bit better. The cloak looks good. Everything else I think maybe I could have done a bit of a better job with. Mainly with the arm holding the pike, but well, it is what it is. I'm not too fussed with it. Yeah, I am quite glad I did the cave first, because if I did Sutekh first and then the cave, I would have made the cave look like it was illuminated, and Sutekh would have looked completely wrong in there. He would have been done. I would have done him up with with proper blacks rather than those kind of lighter blacks and browns, and he definitely would have looked out of place in there. So I'm glad I did the background first so I can match Sutekh to it. I think that's about it that I really want to talk about. Oh, I almost did make the visor for Sutekh red rather than green, and I'm quite glad I kept it as green. I think if I did it in red, it definitely would have kind of been a bit too far astray from the character's mask. I think it definitely wouldn't have worked as well. But I think that's about it. Now, I did do two versions of the drawing. One of them with Sutekh being textured, the other with him out. I prefer him without the kind of texturing for the lighting. I think it works. I think there's about a few little bits on the actual texture version that works well, but I think I prefer the one where he isn't textured. But yeah. I think that should about do it for this video. So yeah. Thank you all for watching. This was really my first attempt at doing both a background and a character in a drawing rather than just a character. And also the first time I drew a character and used full colour rather than the tool I was using for just highlighting stuff. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with how this one turns out. But yeah, thank you all for watching this quite lengthy video, and goodbye. Ta-da!